name is Colin Smith. I am a pianist and teacher at Wonderland Performing Arts, and today we're going to look at some healthy practice habits by looking at my own. Join me. Now then, the past 10 years of piano teaching has changed dramatically, much more so the past 50 years. Thankfully, ye old piano teachers have learned pop and jazz music certainly have their place in traditional music teaching. We no longer think that learning by ear is of the devil. We no longer think that students can get too distracted by playing something they like. My favorite comic strip happens to be Calvin and Hobbes, in which the dad is looking for his glasses and the son walks in wearing them, shouting a quote from Dad, "Calvin, do something you hate! Being miserable builds character!" While that might be true for some people, sometimes not. Certainly at the piano. I like to have fun. But we also have to balance that with learning by the rules. First off, I like to warm up with some major scales. I do all of them, and then I do all of the minor scales, because I don't like them very much. And so on and so forth. Now, clearly, my left hand seems to be catching up there, so slower is always better. When you slow down, there is less pressure on the brain, and so you can catch up to your hands. Let's try again. It's the left hand, always. I seem to sort of freeze up in this odd position, and I have to constantly remind myself, relax. When you have confidence in what to play, you can focus on other things like how fast you're going, what comes next, and remembering to breathe. Breathing is very important. When we breathe, we make phrases. If we don't, music is just notes, and so breathe. Arpeggios are not my strong suit, but I have learned the best way is to play in a relaxed manner, instead of twisting up the keyboard. We sort of hop. Throwing the hands towards the next note. Instead of twisting the wrists like so. Learning in all the different keys is very important. Scales help us build technique for tough pieces. Scales are used almost all the time, certainly in the classical period, and they help us know what fingers to put where. If you learn the language of a key, how a harmony works, you can find out or predict, as it were, what goes on in the music. When I am learning a new piece of music, I like to go in and write what chord is happening. Well, that sounds pretty major to me, so I would write a little major chord. And then the next one is something like that. So I would write a minor chord. These chord progressions help me remember what's coming next, and so I sort of hear it before I play it. It's very difficult. Moving on from scales, I like to do sight reading. Now, I use a book called Sight Reading and Rhythm Every Day. Very straightforward, but it's also very simple. You take a little bit at a time, you tap out the rhythm, and then you read some very simple rhythms on the page, and then you check it off, and that's it. Because my music needs to be a little more difficult, I'm going to go with hymns. I don't always know all of them, but I try to play as accurately as possible with the correct fingering. Last line. So once I know how it should go, I have a familiarity. The trick is to choose something I've never seen before and try my hardest to get it absolutely right. I know that I have 4 measures. I'm going to take the first line, just the left hand, and try to play absolutely accurately. Even if I'm not in time, I want to test myself. So now that I've done that mildly correctly, I have all the right notes, so I know how it should sound. I can identify mistakes. Now I'm going to count myself in. 1, 2, 3. Fairly smooth. The trick is to give yourself a tempo that follows through. If you say 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you have trouble going that fast, don't count that fast. Give yourself a slow, moderate tempo, even slower than you think it should be. Then your brain has time to work. I always tell my students that the brain is sort of like a secretary, filing away all the information you give it. If you give your brain the wrong notes or the wrong information, it remembers. So it has to go back and pull out the right file and change the information. And that takes a long time, doesn't it? So learning the correct notes the first time is very important. Correcting mistakes is what we do. We learn from them and we move on. But the first time is really key to making sure the brain remembers the correct notes. Let's have some fun. Let's do the right hand. Alright, so I'm going to count myself in again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, counting out loud as I go helps me know when things happen. If I count to 3 each time, because it says 3, 4, then I know this is on beat 3, and I continue with 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's very important that I count, because if I don't, then my sense of rhythm goes out the window. Now then, let's move on to some repertoire. This stuff takes a little more time. I like listening to it first. Listening to the whole thing is very important. It's a form of learning. Your ear feeds the information to the brain, and you say, that's nice. That sounds correct. So when I come back and I go to the beginning, I'm really trying to figure out the harmony. So, it's a nice major chord. I'm going to write this chord in A major, all right? And that's the D chord, a D, all right there. And then that's a suspended chord, so I have to tell myself that. This is just the basics. So I go through the whole music, writing down letters, the chords that tell me what the harmony is supposed to be like. So if my notes aren't totally correct, I can fake it by making it sound like it's supposed to. Let me do that again. So, how do I count this? 1 and 2 and, ooh, that's tough. I'm going to circle that in case I make a mistake. I need to remember to count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, okay. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Whoops, that note is tied. I did that wrong twice. A good musician always has a pencil. I think it's a crime not to have pencils. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. See, I went too fast and I made a mistake. The key is to go slowly. So, I've got 2 measures, which is the same thing as the next 2 measures. That means I've learned 4 measures today. I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. I'll review what I've done and then move on to the next 4 measures. 4 measures a day doesn't sound too bad. When you've got 6 pieces to handle, that's a lot. So, I think I've done enough work for now. I need to give my brain a rest. So, I'm going to take a walk around the block. Maybe I'll go down the street. I might say hello to the neighbors from a distance, of course. And then I'll come back. Doing something different gives the brain a time to absorb that information and process it. You're going to use your brain differently at the piano than you do anywhere else. So, pause. It's an important rule that we give ourselves permission to rest. So, do something that takes your brain in a different path. Dance. Listen to something. Read. Something for a short time. A break that gives your brain time to catch up. Let's move on. We'll pretend that we've had our break. And we'll move on to our next piece, which is, I haven't decided yet. We're going to do this. I haven't ever played this, but it's very pretty. Choosing music is something I'm very picky about. When my students are learning, they have certain levels. And then if they are here, then their music is from this level, and I just pick out the right ones. That's simple enough. Choosing music for myself, well, I get to be very picky. I don't like to do something that people know. I'd rather do something that's challenging. If I haven't heard it before, I need to pay attention. If I have, sometimes I move faster, but I don't want to miss something. Other than that, a personal preference is to play something unexpected. No, We won't play Beethoven's Für Elise in A minor, or whatever key it's in. Who cares? He's dead. I would much rather play something that appeals to the imagination. If someone listens to a piece and they hear certain things, their perspective adds to your own. You suddenly have a new idea based on the music that they hear. So listening to music is a lot of fun. Okay. Three. That's important. See, I went too fast and I made a mistake. So that's 4 measures. I mark where I stopped so I know where to review, and I try to remember where I made mistakes. This is the tough part. If you go too far, you'll forget something that you did incorrectly. Mistakes are fun. I make them all the time. And sometimes we have to learn from our mistakes, and sometimes we have to remember them. Knowing that there is a mistake is good, because then we can say, it's there, I'll fix it. If we forget where the mistakes are, the brain remembers them incorrectly. So that wrong note is always there, and we forget to fix it. Like that noise in the car that you just sort of turn the radio up and ignore it. The other thing I like to do is go to the very end. The very end of a brand new piece is too far ahead. I'm not ready for that. Well, that's where you're wrong. To get a big picture of what is happening in the score, I like to know how it finishes. We know how the beginning sounds. We've heard bits and pieces of that because that's where the melody comes in. That's the part that everybody knows. Seldom do people finish pieces, and it's challenging enough. So to hear the end gives us a conclusion and a goal, an attainable goal in mind. Oh, golly, what's going on? This is treble clef, so... Oh, okay, so the same thing twice. Nicely done, if I do say so myself. Not that hard. What is that? It's unexpected because the entire piece is this just floating, sort of flowing, well, an impression almost of something. And the ending is rather unexpected. Like he, I don't know, had an idea and then decided not to do it. Or maybe he forgot where he was and decided to just stop there. Debussy is one of my favorite composers. Last but not least, before I feel like I've finished practicing, I like to make stuff up. This is the fun part. You can do it too if you stick to a box. If you're coloring something, you color within the lines, right? Same thing with the piano. Choose a box to color in. So let's say we'll use the black keys. We can do anything we want, but we only have to play the black keys. Any of the black keys, doesn't matter what. So I'm going to stay in the right place. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm exploring how it feels and how it sounds. When we're learning a piece and we hear that something is wrong, our brain can identify that. But when we're making it up and the brain reacts to a mistake, well, it isn't a mistake. It's just something the brain naturally finds that it doesn't like. So, don't do that. Create something that the brain doesn't react so negatively to, if you can. That's kind of nice. I think I should write that down. So that's the challenge, because we're only trying to say the black keys. Let's try it with the white keys. We'll try something else. Instead of in 4, something common and easy, I'm going to go in 3/4. A nice swinging 3. So I'll count to 3, and as I fool around on the white keys, I'll try only to play the white keys. Any rhythm, anything is right. Something like that. So, the trick is to remember what you've done. If you can't, if memory is not your strong suit, then record yourself. Record using your phone, if you have one, to remember what you did at the piano. If you liked it, you can write it down. So, scales, sight reading, new repertoire, and just a little bit at a time, balancing between all the different music pieces I'm working on, and fun, exploring the keyboard and just fooling around. That's what I do. It seems easy because I'm having fun, but it's taken 25 years, and I wouldn't change a thing. I think the keyboard is a beautiful box that needs taming. So, that's what I'm here for. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you too can have some fun when you are practicing.